Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am scandalous like an Ashley. And I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Pocket Jack Comics. And they are coming to a local comic store near you sometime in March. And right now, you can check out a free preview copy of the sexy comics, Guinevere and the Divinity Factory and Palace of the Golden Princess at pocketjackcomics.com. And if you sign up for Preston's email list, you get a free PDF so you can try it before you buy it. And in March/April, the book is coming, as I stated, to comic shops. And there's going to be some awesome, sexy variants. I've seen a few of them, and I do not think you'll be disappointed if you like bad girl art. And the books are just beautifully illustrated. As well as this episode is brought to you by my friends Jason Connolly and Greg Watson, who have an awesome, awesome book, Living Dead Girl. And if you're a Greg Watson fan, you're going to want this book. So definitely check that out because Greg Bo is killing it. And this is his first time he's actually developed a character in almost 20 years. So that's a cool book. But enough about that. And the links are in the description down below for both of those things, guys. But enough about that because I have with me Nathaniel from Tomorrow's End. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And it's always a pleasure to get to talk with you, always.
Yeah, no, I'm excited because it's been a year and obviously you got a lot going on. But I do, before we get into some of that and we tackle what's going on and what you have in the works per se, what is Tomorrow's End? Because some people might remember you, some people don't remember you. Some people are saying, cool, I kind of have an idea, but I kind of want to catch everybody up on what you do exactly. The short version,
I got you. Yeah, I'll give you the elevator pitch, so to speak. I would say that Tomorrow's End is a Christian art multimedia project, or camp, if you like acronyms for short. It's simply to, use parables, allegory, story, and put them in comic books, music, because we're a band, which we make music and release albums. We've released 4 albums with 10 songs each, so there's 40 songs out on all streaming platforms. If anybody wants to check it out, it's all rock music, varying degrees of styles. It's also on tomorrowsend.com for free. If you don't want to pay for anything, that's cool. All of our stuff, by the way, that I'm going to be talking about today will be available for purchase if you want to support us, or for free if you just want to check it out. We're not in it for the money. We're in it for again, it's a Christian art multimedia project. It's for the message. So we're a band that record music and release it. We're also a live touring band. We played in 22 states in the United States, and we kind of try to spread the message through allegory and songs in that way as well. But we also are in the comic game. And when I talk about us being a band and I talk about us being a live performing band, these characters behind me, that's how we perform live. It's more of a show. It's not just music. It's not just entertainment, but it's more of just a show. Whereas there's even allegory taking place through the stage, like with songs and backgrounds and different things that happen. It's almost like a play kind of. But so you got XIT-esque and the question mark character, and all the interest and explanations for that is on tomorrowsend.com under the characters tab. Again, I know you're wanting the short version, but they all are explained on the website what they mean, and they appear in the all multimedia forms of this project. So we perform with these outfits. They appear in the comic books. They appear in the card game. They appear in the board game that we've released, and we also have a 2D video game that is being worked on that we're going to be debuting a little bit more information on that. And
let's talk about all of this.
Okay.
Obviously, I want to dive into this. So obviously, I think this started off in more of the music, the band element. And so obviously, you've produced a lot of music. You've produced, a bunch of music videos. I consider it kind of a musical 60-minute video broken into 3 or 4 minute clips of songs. That's how I view it. Tell me if I'm wrong. You can tell me, Andrew, just shut up. That's not correct at any point. I'm more than happy to take the L. But that's how I view it. And so what is that like? Because obviously you said something that you're in it not for the money, but obviously to convey a message. And we are in a weird time right now where visuals are very impactful, where 30 years ago, music was very different. Where maybe not 30 years ago, maybe 40. I'll be more fair. Where it used to be, oh, you hear the music and you got the message. But then MTV with music videos, and now we're in a interesting position where you need the music, you need videos, you need imagery, and you need a bunch of other stuff to convey the message. So what is that like? Because it's kind of interesting to see it.
No, a very good question, and just and I'll try to do this in 30 seconds. But the reason for the visuals and stuff is because most people are, again, I myself included. If I see something and I hear it, I'm going to remember it a lot better. I might understand it even more. If somebody just reads a novel and I'm listening to a novel on tape or something, and I don't have like imagery, I can understand it, and if I really pay attention, I can really understand it and you understand what they're talking about. But if you're watching a movie, it's all fed to you, and it's different. You're engaging more senses than just one. So
You also feel, sorry to interrupt, you also feel that when you produce a movie or you produce a TV show, there's a bunch of different tools where in a novel, obviously a novel, you can deliver time, you can deliver other things there. But in a comic book, it gives a reader a lot of power. And in a movie, it's set where it's like if the person's in bed and then they wake up and the sun's out, we clearly saw that they sleep, and then 8 hours later, we get a sense that 8 hours passed. And so, obviously, if you're conveying a message, video format, at least I think, is a very interesting way because while it does leave room for interpretation, it also narrows the scope.
I agree, and also you can if you're a director and you're doing something visually like in a video as opposed to a novel or a comic book, you control time and you control the space. For example, whereas you could read the same thing over and over to really or somebody could read something real slow or real fast, and it's more of the reader. They're the ones who kind of in a way is directing it. Whereas if you're presenting the information in video format, you are controlling the time, you're controlling the pace, you're controlling where you want their eyes to go as well. Like even in a comic book, you can with really, really smart, artists, they can kind of make your eyes go to certain ways in a certain order or the panel layout or structure or whatever. But in a video, if you zoom in and you stay on there for a minute, you're making the audience look at that specific, thing for that specific amount of time. And again, like you said, like with the message stuff, and this is the thing I was going to say, just a quick 30-second thing. The reason we do this is to try to get the correct, I guess, version of Christianity, I guess, out there. A lot of times, like I was, I've been on your show before, talked about I had bone cancer at 17. I was saved at 17. I'm 20 years cancer free, still have issues from the chemotherapies, had a neck fusion, had a miracle from that just a year and a half ago, a 5-level fusion turned into 3. Yeshua got me through that. It was awesome. So we're just trying to show people what really the Bible says and not what you see on TV with like people that are just after your money. They're after what's in your pocket. They're after followers. They're after likes. They're after, clicks. They're after shares and all these different things. We're just literally wanting to share a message with you through this art. And hopefully it makes people think about their life, where they are in their life, and have they really turned down a, perfect Christ on his words, or have they turned him down on flawed people? So that's kind of the rest of the elevator pitch, so to speak.
So, because I think it's interesting, right? And I'm very interested in marketing. Obviously, I cut up micro content on my show, and I specifically pick and cater content that I think is going to do well over time and becomes evergreen. And I'm obviously having a message for every single interview I do, and every interview I write has a theme, and it's either going downstream, upstream, or it's a shotgun scatter approach.
Mm-hmm.
But usually the dots all connect. And so I just think it's fascinating because obviously when you do have a message, and I think a lot of people sometimes in comics don't realize that this is not necessarily even creation anymore. It's the idea of selling your product. And I think people think selling a product is simply this right here, like my iPhone, you're selling an iPhone. No, your product could be a message. And I think it's so interesting. And it just intrigues me.
No, I'm glad it piques your interest. And one cool thing is, and I know a lot of people, sometimes we get flack for stuff saying, "Oh, well, if why do you even have stuff for sale if you're not in it for the money?" Again, we're not rich. If people want physical copies, we'll provide people with physical copies. But since we are in it for the message and to try to, just get people to think about things differently or look into through the world. Or go ahead.
I got to challenge you. So
go for
it. I really enjoy doing my show, right?
Yeah.
But it does cost me money to do it. So I have sponsors. If I really don't want to interview somebody, either I won't do it or I'll say, hey, it's going to be $30. People says, but Andrew, you really enjoy doing this, right? And what people I think forget is that it still costs money to do something. and I'm not looking, this is not my job, but I'm looking to make $240 or $300 to cover some expenses
No, I get it.
that I'm not getting destroyed out here. Even if I get 180 and my StreamYard is 240, guess what? Now I only need to come up with $60. And so
Yeah.
guess what? I won't go to the bars for 2 weeks.
No,
You know,
yeah.
problem solved versus me not having to go out for 25 weeks. And I think that's what people sometimes forget is that you want to fuel your activity. I
Mhm.
run an eBay business that is pure profit. And that is a pure business
Mhm.
where I enjoy it, but I'm looking to sell a book for more than what I paid for it.
Mhm.
And I think that's where people sometimes don't understand is that it's kind of like a missionary. I think they still
Mhm.
need funding,
Mhm.
but they're trying to spread Christianity. I think that's what missionaries do, right? I
No,
don't want
yeah, no, you're correct. Yeah, ministry of any kind, whether missionary or just in ministry, like doing stuff more, in your own backyard or whatever the case may be. The cool thing is, yeah, all money that we do make from it goes back into the product. But the cool thing is, that's how, again, if you believe in something, and again, this is ministry based. So I'm not saying, this shouldn't be for people for making stocks and investments in this way of life. This is for, again, I'm speaking from a ministry point of view. Again, we've sold our own items and collections of things because we believed in it. We believed in the message. We believed in the content. Because here's the thing, it's not just about putting a message out there, but doing it in the best way you can. It's about making sure you're using your talents or your creativity or whatever the case may be. Like the artist that has done these comics, Dan Drews, he's awesome artist from Indiana. Very, very cool artist. Very, very awesome guy. And he's a very talented artist, and he's put a lot of hard work into doing these. And same thing with the board game, and everything is done to the utmost that we can possibly do it. So that way, not only is people getting a message, but they're getting quality to where, at the very least, it'll be maybe it's a good read for you. But if you look deeper, it's kind of like an onion. You peel back the layers and stuff. Hopefully onions can be an acquired taste for some. Hopefully it's a taste you enjoy and you enjoy onion. But the more you peel the layers back, you're going to get deeper and deeper until you get to the seed, which is, it's all about Christ, if that makes sense.
onions. I love this Shrek line from that. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I love ogres are like onions. You mean they stink? Yes, donkey. No, donkey. No, donkey.
No, that is a good movie.
Oh, what a great movie. Shrek 2 was good too. Shrek 3 was rough. But we're not talking about Shrek. That is a far cry from Christianity. Far cry. But I actually, since you wrote up the comics, I mean, obviously the music stuff came first.
Mm-hmm.
Then a bunch of other stuff kind of came into play. And one of those things was the comics. And
Yes.
what is that like? Because obviously comics are a different breed collectively than the music, but it is a product. It's kind of like a band has a t-shirt. And so what is that like? I think if you're trying to spread a message, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. You could be very, very pinpoint direct and be very narrow in your scope purposely, but be the best at it.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people who all they do is one sector in life and they are the best. They don't play in anything else, and that's all they do. Like I'll use an example. There are families that all they have done for hundreds of years is football. That's all they've done. They don't touch baseball. They don't touch anything else. They do football and they might do real estate, and that's it. They have a very narrow scope on business, but they're the best at it. And there's other people who say, I want diversification and I want to cast a wide net because I want a little bit of everything, because when the music isn't going to work, the comics are. And so.
Oh, no, yeah, I wasn't wanting to cut you off, but no, what you said, you actually hit the nail on the head, seriously, because that's the thing. A lot of people don't like rock music. Even in today's time, there's still people that like rock music, and especially theatrical rock. It's a niche audience. A lot of people, some people like it. Some people like it like it's weird, like the more popular you get, then more people like it because people's like, oh, well, if they like it, then I guess it's cool to like. So, but it's still a niche audience. It's not for everybody. But when you diversify, and especially if you've got a ministry or a message of any kind or something you really believe in, if you put it in different forms, the people that don't like music, okay, we got the comic. If you don't like comics, we got a card game. If you don't like card games, we got a board game. If you're like, hey, those type, I like games that move. Well, we're working on the 2D, again, Super Nintendo style video game. And the same thing with the actual, we have custom action figures that the artist of the comic, he's also a custom action figure maker and does really well with that. And we're going to have stop motion, like the old Rankin Bass stop motion that's going to tell a story. We have a cartoon. It's a 10-minute animated project that will be coming out this year. It's about diversifying because we're not trying to reach one demographic. We're trying to get a little from all. And because, again, we're not just after one type of person, if that makes sense. We're really trying to cast our net wide. And that's one thing I always tell people is I'd rather shoot for the stars and hit the moon than shoot for the moon and never leave the atmosphere, so to speak. And so,
So let's actually talk about this, because obviously you're not in for the money, but it is a business.
yes.
And the distribution method goes back into the business and obviously spreading your message. And that's fine. There's nothing intrinsically wrong. Everybody has a different purpose and a different distribution method for their business. But what is this like to have a lot of vast product? Because it does get tricky. So, and I equate this back to me. This is the only way I understand. I play in only 2 spaces for the most part on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
I used to play in 3, and then I cut one of them out because it was getting too complicated. I dabble a little bit, but I used to play in a lot of Pop Funkos, a lot of comics, and a lot of baseball cards. And now I specifically only play in comics, baseball cards, and a few trading cards here and there of particular sets. And every once in a while, I'll pick up maybe 15 Pop Funkos a year that I'll sell. But I used to sell a lot more, but I'm very specialized because I don't want to spread myself too thin. And then what I do with my profits is that I invest it in the stock market. So it is a very linear downward path on what I buy and what I sell and what I do with my capital after I make a profit, or sometimes you take a loss and you make an exit. So what is this like? Because I think it's very complicated in creative spaces right now. Is where's the limit? Because you have a lot of things going on, and this is what's fascinating about what you're doing is, and I'm curious the entire thought process and the managing of it.
I guess when you're not worried about, you've got to pay so-and-so or you've got to necessarily make money. Like I always joke with this, whenever you talk about your profit margin and stuff. Well, every profit that we've ever made goes back into the next project. So again, it's never been into where you're getting that profit to, I don't know, go out to eat or whatever the case may be, or to pay something. It's always good. It's fueled back into the product. So it gets just the chance to make more and more things to use for ministry, to try to put the message in different things. I always joke with people. They say, so what do you do with your profit margins? I said, I don't know. Whenever I have profit margins, I'll let you know. Because everything always goes back into something else, because there's still things. Again, we're going to be at Chattanooga. It's a Chattanooga comic convention in Chattanooga, Tennessee, this upcoming weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, February 23rd through the 25th. We're going to be unveiling things there that people have not seen anything of yet. They've heard me talk about it, but nobody's really seen the video game stuff. They've heard about it. Nobody's seen the fullness of the cartoon and stuff, or some other cool things that we're going to be debuting that will be debuting over the weekend. And it's just about always making sure that you're having something else. You don't need to, top out, so to speak, where you don't have nowhere else to go. The cool thing with this project and with these characters, you can keep on going. And since we're not, I guess, just trying to, make money, it just fuels into the next project. So it's really cool if you look at it from that way, if that makes sense.
I have such a hard time relating to that. I mean, because my business is set up in such a different way where it obviously there is market caps that are placed in, but when you have like a 2.5 or a 3x, profit margin, you obviously pay back the item, you carry it forward into the next item, but then I take a distribution out. And for me, the only reason why I'm taking the distribution out is, and then I invest in the stock market, and then that's going to eventually get me to financial freedom, which means I could be a lot more charitable and I could protect my family. And I could, hopefully, when I have kids, I'm going to be sending them to college debt free and a lot of other stuff. So it's protection, and it's also, I'm going to be living a comfortable life where I have choices. And when you have money, you could be outrageously generous. If you have $20 million in the bank, You could go to a restaurant where
Mhm.
your bill's $20 and you could just leave $100 to a
Mhm.
waitress who's looking like she's 21, 22, kind of get the sense that she's down on her luck, and you could tip her $100 and be outrageously generous. And
No,
so,
yeah.
like for me, that's kind of where I'm at. So like I have a hard time relating with her.
No,
But also there's a reason why I'm growing at like a 3 or 4% rate in my eBay business, because it
mhm.
mitigates risk too. And that like I can't be fearless, and I envy you because it seems like you're fearless on this, and it sucks is I can't be fearless the same way. And I mean I take big risks, don't get me wrong, but I can never ever just be like, just sold $10,000 worth of comics. We're gonna go put it into another 10,000. Like I can never
Mhm.
just do that. Like, oh, it makes me just like I don't know how you do it. It is my question. Like I
No,
can't connect.
that's a good question, and I got it from somebody else the other day. And the cool thing is, that's the difference of, I guess, doing ministry as opposed to business because it's on faith. I truly do believe that there is an audience. Again, people consume more entertainment in today's time period than they have throughout of all human history. Whether it's Netflix, whether it's they're on their phone, whether it's even scrolling through Facebook, whatever, reading. Even during COVID, comic book sales skyrocketed because people couldn't go out, so they read more. They watched, even streaming services went up and stuff with content like that was consumed. And anyways, so there's an audience out there. And if you believe in your message, and again, we do, again, we believe in the gospel. And if you truly believe in it, which 100% do, then it isn't that I'm fearless. It's just that I have enough faith that overcomes the fear, if that makes sense.
So let me ask this, because I actually am curious, and we're gonna maybe enter some controversial territory here,
Okay.
but obviously what's happened is that The Chosen has been massively successful.
hmm
There's the whole commercial, and I don't know if you like this commercial or not, but it's that Jesus gets us, and Jesus didn't teach us hate; he taught us
hmm
this. Jesus washed feet,
Yeah.
and those like there was like 3 or 4 of them during the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
Those are like $8 million commercials a
Yeah.
piece, which is wild. What I don't know the full extent of that message. I don't know the organization behind it, so I don't want to disparage them or praise them too much.
hmm
But I feel like in America, we have Angel Studios. I think is the studio that's doing the anime. I
hmm
think they did part of The Chosen. I think they did did they just do the movie about the trafficking thing? I think too. I think they were a part of. So obviously there's a lot of stuff, I guess, with Christianity
hmm
that is coming out of the woodwork where for
hmm
a while, and I'm not saying it's not vilified still per se,
hmm
but there's a lot more of that now. And there's a lot more of that entertainment, I guess, readily available, or maybe it was always there, but maybe it's just now being presented more. And
Uh-huh.
so, what is that like for you? Because obviously, I don't want to say you're in that space, but you kind of are to some degree.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that we try to do more than anything is making sure that everything is sound. Like if we have an allegory or parable in this story that points to something, that there's always something you can point to in scripture and stuff. Like we're always trying to be upfront. Like again, the Chosen show, it's got a lot of awesome stuff in it. There's a few things that are inaccuracies and stuff, but they're making a program and stuff. So that's just what happens. So we just always try to make sure that anything that we do, like if you go to the website and listen to the music and you see all these weird outfits and it explains what every character means, what the colors even mean, what each song means. It's got the lyrics. We try to be as transparent as possible. Not that there's not things in there you can't look at and delve deeper and say, whoa, I think this means that too. There is. It's making it, again, that onion, that multi-layered thing. But it is about being transparent and showing people what it is really about. And I think it's good anytime, you're making, art that I guess, is glorifies, Christ. I think that's awesome. It's just sometimes people lump it all together. Like like, for example, if somebody goes and sees, I don't know, a movie that's supposed to be a Christian movie and it's bad, or it's got the wrong message, or it's interpreting scripture incorrectly, or whatever the case may be, then they find out, oh, so you must be the same thing. And it's about not being lumped in. It's about being judge every work on
So,
its own, if that makes sense.
because the reason why I asked this
Yeah.
is that obviously, I mean, I was looking at investing in Angel Studios. I saw
hmm
the potential to invest in The Chosen, which has
hmm
actually returned money to their backers, which
Yeah.
is crazy. that anime may or may not, but they got some serious talent.
Mhm.
Johnny Young Bosch is in there. There's a few. I mean, I know some people in there. It's not a cheap project, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, not at all.
Real money, but it was a little too pricey for me. I think they were like $150 for a share. It was a little too rich for my blood. I would have been more happier at a $50 price range because I just wanted more shares. 150 is a little steep for an unproven project. And a project that I think will do okay, but is risky. But the point I'm getting at is there's a lot more of that media now in play. And I think it's interesting, and I'm curious because I think I've seen one Christian comic on Kickstarter. I wanted to interview the person, we were speaking, and then it just never got anywhere. And I thought it was very interesting on the whole thing. And I think it would have been a very interesting interview because I'm like, this looks really cool. And I haven't had something like this on there, but what is that like? Because I think that it's fascinating to me that this is now becoming a sector of media. And I don't think 5 years ago that I don't know if it could have been done, but I feel like media is ready for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I would say that the reason that there's an uptick in Christian content is because if you look at even like if we go back 2001, you got the World Trade Centers, right? You know, you got the big catastrophe, terrorism, and everything. Well, afterwards, you have an uptick in superhero movies. People knew that, hey, the world needs something. So you see Spider-Man come out, you know, you see ever since the culture changed because there's like, whoa, if you look at comic books when generally they do the best, a lot of times, except for the 90s, which is its own just consumer, speculator market. But if you look at, you know, in World War II, that's when Captain America, Wonder Woman, Superman, all the, you know, the giants came, even Batman. And then you see after the 9/11 attacks, you see comic book movies, you know, in vogue and people want it. Well, when you see the case of the world and after a pandemic and all these things, people are more inwardly looking, I would say. So it creates more opportunities for Christian content to come out because I think to a degree, most people are inwardly looking for something. And so when there's a demand for it, there's going to be more ways to get that product out, if that makes sense. That would be my best way to answer that question again, because I have no ties to any other studio or anything like that. Everything. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just curious because I see it,
Yeah.
and for me, I try to find and spot trends,
Yeah.
patterns. I try to understand because as somebody who's in this space, you know, obviously I need to be educated as an interviewer. I need to be educated as a reader. Obviously, I have my own ulterior motives as an investor, you know, and somebody who invests in comic books and collectibles and the stock market. It is very important for me to understand sentiment because sentiment of the world and sentiment of ideas and sentiment of media is crucial, I feel, in certain ways to say, cool, where are we going with this? And also, you know, what is if you're not paying attention to the world, I mean, even for I have a day job, understanding where the world's at, even with my day job, is crucial because if everything goes to hell, you know, my job might not be there tomorrow.
No, I
And
get that.
I think I don't think I'm going to be fired. My company's
Mhm.
relatively stable. I work in education.
Mhm.
Education is like the one thing that does not get cut ever.
Mhm.
And I'm specialized in that field, but not the point. But I feel that it's very interesting, and so I was just curious because as somebody who's just in look, I just noticed this in the last 5 years, and more importantly, the last two. I was just curious what you see because you're a part of the whole sector of this. And I don't mean to lump you into a sector, but
Right.
and I was just curious because I think it's fascinating.
But that would be seriously the best answer I think I could give is that if you think about it like this, if people are, you know, like when people are sick, more people go to the doctor, so to speak. So if people are having a long, and again, we live in quite a crazy climate. We had a worldwide, you know, pandemic, started epidemic, then pandemic. Then you see the stuff, especially within the United States, which is where most of the movie studios or entertainment companies, you know, not all of them, but your bigger ones and the ones with more financial backing and stuff. And we've seen, again, the stuff we've had in politics with elections, that the country's been divided, all these different things. So people are looking and I think realizing, you know, well, I'm not, I'm not promised tomorrow with my health. I'm not promised tomorrow or anything in this world. A politician isn't going to save me. Government isn't going to save me. And I think whenever people have those inward feelings, there becomes more of a demand for like that type of content, if that makes sense.
Did you also feel, because I mean, look, I'm sure there's violent Christian movies. I'm sure of it, and I'm sure that I mean, obviously, I grew up Jewish,
Mm-hmm.
in certain positions, and I'm very much agnostic atheist at this
Mm-hmm.
moment. But obviously, the Torah is a bloody freaking story. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you read the Tanakh, I mean, there's some stuff in there. What was
Mm-hmm.
it? King Saul with David. I mean, David did some pretty crazy things. For those who don't know, David like decapitated Goliath after he beat him. That's the part that's left out, everybody. That's the part that's left out. But
And then David winds up sending, he sends somebody off to war so he can have their, their wife and stuff. And then there's punishment for that. And yeah, like one thing, and I don't want to cut you off, so I'll let you continue your question. But are you getting to like violence in like what's the limit for violence or stuff like in like?
no,
Oh, okay.
What I was getting at is that when I see Christian things,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, maybe The Chosen. I've only seen like 2 or 3 episodes of The Chosen,
Okay.
but a lot of the Christian content that I've seen and sampled, it's typically positive and uplifting. It's typically moral driven. So I've read like the manga Bible,
Mm-hmm.
which is absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the R. Crumb Bible. That's
Mm-hmm.
a very different Bible. But the point is that I don't really I get the sense that it's just a wholesome, peaceful story. And given that we live in crazy times and messed up times, it almost seems to me that people also want to seek solace to
Mm-hmm.
some degree because somebody wants a wholesome story. Like, I'll be honest, like I would imagine for some people, maybe they're also turning to this because it's kind of like cute cat videos
Mm-hmm.
where it's just going to bring me a sense of solace and I feel a little bit safer in these crazy times.
I'm very glad you mentioned that because, like one of the models, like on our business cards and stuff I hand out on the website and Facebook and stuff, it says Christian art done differently for the different in order to make a difference. And the reason it says that is because our stuff doesn't always make you feel like it doesn't have always that wholesome, like you said, it's not just the fluff. Sometimes it's the stuff that makes you feel worse. You're like, oh man, that's a tough situation. Whoa, why does that happen? Like even in the comic, if you read it, sometimes the leaders that you're following along and stuff is the actual one that you should have been afraid of the whole time. It's not like all Tomorrow's End content down to the way that's the reason it looks this way. It is to be different and to show people you I think, and that's not a criticism on Christian art. There's, there needs to be lighter stuff. There needs to be all these different variations. But Tomorrow's End is not a lighter type, I guess, just media in general. Whether it's the music, whether it's the comics, whether it's cartoon, whatever, because it's to show the world's an ugly place. It's a dark place. People are ugly and dark people sometimes. Even people that you don't think so. You get to know them, and you're like, "Whoa, I did not know that." And it's, sometimes we shouldn't have idols anyways, but if you do have somebody you really look up to, sometimes it's the old term idol, they have feet of clay. You have to make sure that your hope is in Christ, not in just people. Like if people read the comic, it is not fluffy cat videos, I will say.
Oh man, I could say so many things. I mean, I live a complicated life and I'm stressed out all the time. So I watch a lot of fluffy cat videos of them playing with a pom pom for like 30 minutes. It's the best thing ever, guys. It's the best thing ever. Like your Friday night, you just pour yourself a nice stiff drink and then you watch some cat videos, and then 7 hours goes by and like, oh my god, where did all my rum go? And where did the time go? It's amazing. It's almost as good as going on a Lake Mead trip. Where I did that. I watched 12 hours of Lake Mead videos, documentaries, and I'm like, oh my god, I learned so much about this. I'm like, holy fucking shit, it's 4 a.m. Like, how did this happen? Like, but I can respect that. I can respect not giving a fluffy story and a feel good story. I can respect that in a lot of ways. But yeah, that's what I want, everybody. I just want a nice like, at night.
And I think to have another allegory, like imagine, going to the doctor, and your arm's sitting there, you're hanging off, by the tendon and stuff. It's cut almost in half, and the doctor's, gives you a sucker, and you're like, whoa, this is, it's pretty, it's it's colorful, it tastes good, it's sweet, but when you leave, your arm's still hanging off. So that's kind of the approach we take to the Tomorrow's End stuff. It doesn't always make you feel better, but it does make you think. And that's what the gospel in itself, like you said, if you look at the Torah and stuff, the first 5 books of scripture, it's a pretty bloody massacre. There's a lot of stuff that takes place in there. And when you kind of, I guess, sugarcoat everything, it dilutes the message, so to speak. I would say, like, a lot of times, like you said about David and Goliath, you see a lot of times the story of David and Goliath in children's books, but most people don't know that he got his head afterwards. I mean, that kind of stuff's important, though, because I know so many people that if it isn't easy, and if it isn't sparkly, and if it isn't, pleasing to the eyes and very, very fluffy cattish, so to speak, they won't do it. They're like, oh, life's not like that. Life's not made of, rainbows and clouds. They appear from time to time, but that's not,
You have not seen My Little Pony, have you?
I guess I haven't studied it enough. Yeah.
I mean, Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie. Really? I mean, you talk about idols here, everybody. You know mine. So many things can be said about that. I can make an argument why My Little Pony is an adult show, and it's not meant for kids, and they're really trying to bring kids and brainwash them, and then it's great. It's brilliant. I love My Little Pony. It's the greatest adult show for children. But it actually does in many ways have Christian themes in it, which is great. So does Static Shock, but that's a different discussion too. I love Static Shock too, but anyway, I digress. But I do want to back out of this because I don't want to get us both into trouble, but because I know we're entering dangerous territory when you start talking about Christianity and darkness and not giving fluff to it. People get upset, people can get offended. But I do want to talk about the video game stuff because that's a whole different sector too.
It is, and this awesome artist, his name's Olin Orig. And again, we talk sometimes. He speaks English and stuff. He's from the Philippines. He's an awesome, really cool dude. He's also a fellow believer and stuff, and believes in the message and the content and the project. But it's just really, really cool. Again, that there's been, again, God's opened so many doors where this is a guy it was a chance meeting. Again, he lives in the Philippines. I'm in Tennessee in the United States of America, and just by chance we kind of crossed paths through social media, and showed him the project, and he's developing it. It's going to be a 6-level game. It's going to be in the style of Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, like side scroller. And you said you didn't I sent you that. I don't know if you can screen share it, but if not, that's cool. We'll be premiering it this weekend, but the video of the game. But it's going to be, every level has 3 stages. So it's not just like a one and done. You play through all 5 characters, and they all battle a different sin or a monster. It's very much like the universal horror monsters of the 30s and 40s. And, it's very kind of old school flashback with a modern twist. And these monsters represent their sins. So you have one level that's the X character, the I, the T, S, and the question mark character. They battle their sins, their monsters, their inner demons. And then it gets in, and they could combine into this character called the Bride. And it's, from the Christianity perspective, the church, the believers, are the body of Christ, or otherwise called the Bride. And the point of that is, it's kind of like, in a way, Captain Planet. I don't know if you grew up with Captain Planet, but I did. Yeah. So they put their rings in the air, and then Captain Planet formed from the combination. The Bride does the same thing. The characters combine into one character, the Bride, and it fights the trickster. And it's a representation of like the false prophet, and false message, and false indoctrination of what I guess sometimes Christianity even is in secular or Christian platforms. So it's really like a very, to put this in a video game, a side scroller, it's got a lot of content in it and a lot of undertones and themes. Go ahead.
Let's actually talk about this because now I'm curious. So how are you going to release this? Because is it going to be on your website? Is it an app? Is it going to be cartridge based? Because this is where we're getting tricky. And I don't know how much you know about indie video games, but Crunchyroll just released they're supposed to release a Game Boy game.
Hmm.
So they built a Game Boy Color cartridge game that you could put into a Game Boy, and it's awesome. And they released the game online too, but obviously for collectors who want it, you could plug it in to your Game Boy Color and
Hmm.
play it like a handheld. And so I'm very curious how you're going to release it because we have iPhones now. We have obviously internet access. You technically could do a floppy disk or a CD. Technically speaking, you could do a flash drive,
Yeah.
or you could do a Game Boy cartridge, or you could do all of it or none of it.
you
So
have you have actually great questions, and there's going to be a couple different ways. One will be, and this is again, it's in literally the first level, and there's again 6 levels for this game, but it's the
you're gonna have
idea.
DLC too. You're gonna add DLC content, downloadable content.
Now
I'm
that
so sorry.
no, that would be cool.
I used to be a gamer. And I purposely ask you questions because now I'm intrigued.
No, that's really cool. The plan is to release it to where people can go to the website and play it. Whether the HTML and everything the way it does with the specific website we have, I don't know if it'll be embedded in the actual website tomorrowsend.com, or if tomorrowsend.com will just have a link, and then you can play it online. But it's also going to be able to be played on your phone. That's the plan, and also to where it could even be like in the hopefully the like Xbox or PlayStation like stores and stuff, to where you can play there.
Would
But
would you do Steam or Steam
yeah,
like on those platforms? Because
that's kind of the plan, to also to have it with that, and also to, like you said, the USB, the flash drive, the stick, because that way you can sell it in like a cart. The box will look like a cartridge. It'll be kind of cased in it, but you can you just plug it in and play.
because I'll be honest, the Crunchyroll game that I bought that I bought last year, and I bought my friends one because I thought it was so just gimmicky
Hmm.
that I'm not even gonna open it up. I think it's hilarious that
Hmm.
it's called Time Champ, which is their mascot, right?
Uh-huh.
And I thought the concept of it on a shelf in a studio that I'm building is just so weird and trippy, and people are gonna be like, "That's an awesome background." So for me, I'm looking at this on a different level where I'm like, "Don't you want to have a cool piece, right?"
Yeah.
Like, because to me, if you all of a sudden have really cool art and you have a cool flash drive and a custom flash drive, and
Mhm.
I don't know what's offensive or not offensive for a flash drive, but what if you had the villain's head at the back end of the flash drive,
Yeah.
right? Or you had or you had 5 different flash drives of all the characters, like half their body and their
Yeah.
head. And like now you're getting into some funky stuff here where you can do some cool stuff, or you could so like that's where this gets cool because I think we're in a weird place now with collectibles where
Mhm.
people want something that is collectible more so than anything else.
No, I agree. And so there will be, so to be clear, there will be a physical version of the game. Again, it most likely will be on a flash drive. Just the best way that we probably can do it. But the cool thing is, like you said, the collectability. Like I have people that like, which again, most people open up their comics. They're just in tape that in a back and board, the bag and boarded, and they're taped together. But I know people who, for some reason, because they didn't want to mess them up, they's like, hey, I don't want to get fingerprints on it. They never open the comics that they bought, but they read the PDFs, on their tablet or iPhone or whatever. And so, yeah, people may purchase the actual physical copy, like the flash drive, but never actually even, they might not even do anything with it. They might just play it online anyways. But it is cool to have that option, because you have people that like physical media and you have people that just, consume everything digitally. I'm actually a physical media person myself, because I don't know if it's just because I grew up, before the age of, everything digital, but I like having physical copies of things in my hand.
So let's actually talk about that because I'm weird now, right?
Hmm.
I like having I'm a big Nook reader,
Uh-huh.
so I like reading on my iPad. I got an iPad like 3 years ago as a Christmas gift from my parents. Best gift they've ever given me. They gave me like $50 to just have fun with on it, buy a bunch of fun apps, buy a bunch of fun games. It connects to my iPhone, connects to my Mac. It's awesome. Apparently, if you have a Mac, by the way, everybody, and I just learned this, that your iPad, if it's next to it, close to it, acts as a second screen. So you could use your mouse on your iPad. It's awesome. It's awesome. I didn't know that until I accidentally did. I'm like, well, what the fuck did I do here? Sorry for cursing, but I was shocked. There's no other way I can explain that. But what I like is that I'm reading a lot of digital comics and I read a lot of digital manga. And I just bought the Shonen Jump app for manga and has all the One Piece on it. It's $3 a month. I can't compete by physical media. Now I will buy all of One Piece too, but I don't have space anymore to go buy Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, Doctor Stone, the Doctor Stone spinoff, and then Sakamoto Days, and then 10 other series that are only 10 volumes. Then I'm like, cool. I don't have the space anymore to buy everything, but I want to read it. And so I'm curious, like for me, digital's an answer.
Mhm. Yeah, and one thing I do, like, not everything I watch do I, I guess get the physical. Anything that I'm going to be a repeat, I guess, viewer of is what I get like physical copies of, whether that's seasons of something or I don't know, the latest cool superhero movie or whatever, Star Wars, whatever it is. I'll get the physical media of that. Like, not everything that I've ever seen though do I, you know.
So let's actually talk about that because
Okay.
I'll tell you my opinion. I'm a huge Gundam fan and anime. I'm a huge Gundam fan. I'm a huge Studio Ghibli fan. I love Shinkai. He's a director. Hosoda's a director, and there's a bunch of directors that I thoroughly enjoy, and there's a bunch of shows that I've enjoyed. So I'm not gonna go buy Naruto in physical Blu-rays. I'm not gonna go buy Pokemon either or Digimon in physical viewers, in Blu-rays, I should say. But I'll watch it. But I don't think everything should I don't think everything should be even produced in Blu-ray, to be honest. I wish that there was a gatekeeper that said, this show is a good show and it'll be readily available, but it's not a Blu-ray ready show. But again, I don't want to make that call for anybody, but that's my point is that I feel at this stage you have to pick and choose what you want to buy, how you want to buy it, and what is most important to you. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender, I love that show. I have the Blu-ray. I have all of Korra. I haven't opened up the Blu-ray at all. But I've watched it on Netflix like 9 times.
You make a good point, actually. Sometimes things that that you buy the physical copy of, you wind up still just streaming it because you wanted the physical copy. Maybe power goes out, or I guess power goes out. You can watch it on your laptop or whatever.
I want the option to always have certain things.
Yeah,
it's an option play versus a convenience play.
Yeah,
but like I'm buying One Piece. I have half of One Piece. I just don't. I just want to lay in my bed with the lights out. I have an hour and a half before I should be going to sleep, and it's on my iPad ready to go. And it's massively convenient, and it's dirt cheap. If you're reading 50 chapters of One Piece every single month for $3, I cannot beat that price point. If I want to do it legally, I could do it for free. By the way, you can do a lot of things for free, but for $3, $36 a year, I mean, to do something legally. So that's how I feel. But I don't know. I get the physical thing. I just don't have space, and honestly, it's convenience. It's those two things at this point, and I also feel less guilty because I have a Comixology subscription too. I picked up so many graphic novels, and I'm like, this is a bad graphic novel. And I'm 6 pages in. I'm like, I am thankful that I didn't go to the library and rent it. I'm thankful that I didn't buy it, and I don't feel guilty that this is bad.
No, I get it. Yeah, there's sometimes, that's quite the feeling after you spend, $25, $35 on something, get home. So it's so pumped. You read it and you're like, whoa, I could have definitely not, purchased that and been a lot better off. So no, I've been there with many purchases.
So having done that though, I mean, obviously because I think, when people have had bad experiences and then they produce a product, and obviously I ship my eBay books a certain way because I've had bad experiences, and I make sure I do everything in my power to prevent a bad experience. What is that like for you? Because obviously you don't want to half-ass something that you're releasing. Now, if you release a song on YouTube for free and somebody watches it, they didn't pay anything for it, and maybe they had a bad 4 minutes. You can't really do that. But if they paid you $50 for an album and it wasn't good, that's not great either. So what is that like? Because obviously, as somebody who's consumed bad products, I would imagine that you want to make sure you're delivering the best you can.
Couple things on that. Well, one, we 100% make sure we put enough effort in, and nothing is ever released. Again, there's a reason why this project has been growing and growing, and while we're just really about to get to the culmination of where we're going to like really release a whole bunch of stuff, a big launch party for all this stuff, the comics, the music, the videos, and getting like everything synchronized. But so we make sure we go over it with a fine-tooth comb and do it the best of our ability. But the second thing is, it's all for free at first, actually forever. But I mean, you can view it for free at first. So if you want to check out the comic, read it online first. If you don't like it, don't buy it. If you like it after you read it and say, hey, this is cool, I want to either support this or I want to actually keep this, have this physical copy. The same thing's going to be with the video game. It's going to be online for free. If people want the physical copy, they'll be able to order a physical copy of the video game. Here within the next few months, this board game right here, people will have to use their own paper and ink at home, but they'll be able to print out like a board, the characters, and again, they'll have to do some cutting and stuff if they really want to do it. But there's going to be a free option for everything. So when you do that, that's showing a couple things. It's showing faith in your product that, hey, if that it's good enough that people will sample it and then purchase it. And it's also showing that there's nothing that people have to lose. Sample it first. If you don't like the song, after you listen to 10 of the 40 songs, you're like, whoa, this band is not for me. Then don't go get it on Spotify or iTunes or anything. Don't get it from there. But
I gotta ask you. So
I'm
gonna commit a sin that you're gonna disagree with.
Go for it.
I don't know how familiar you are with my show, but obviously I interview a wide variety of people.
Yeah.
And recently I've had some, let's just say, adult entertainers on.
Okay.
And we've had this conversation that obviously they sell a certain product and there's certain sites. And obviously there was a conversation about, and the reason I promise you, it's actually extremely relevant, is that what do you give for free versus what you keep behind you? Because if you get a video of a clip that they've done and it's 5 minutes, but the full clip's 25 minutes, but it gets 300,000 views, what do you give for free? How do you protect your customers? And how do you get interest? And I think it's a very interesting discussion. And it's not just in that sector, but obviously with comics, do you give your first issue for free? If you have a 0 issue that you have a physical copy, do you give your 0 issue for free? With Kickstarter stretch goals, do you give your issue on a backer count stretch goal? Because what is going to maximize the most value and most media attention? Because I feel, and the reason why I bring it back to these adult entertainers, and I think the argument versus the product they sell versus the message that they're talking about, it's the idea is that what is exposure worth? Because it's customer acquisition cost, I feel. Where if you're getting something and giving somebody a board game for free, and they actually take the time to print it out, or better yet, you get an email out of them, put them on an email list. So better yet, rather than give it to them for free, say, hey, type in your email, we'll send you this in an email PDF. Because that's where I think this is interesting, is that my show will always be free. Because I'm building a brand, and what I'm selling you is A, my sponsors, and B, whatever merch I have, or whatever else I got, or my eBay store, or my other businesses, or some other component where I'm building my brand. And so I think it's very interesting. And so I'm just curious what you think, not the product they're selling. But
I get it. And I think
it's crystal clear.
No, I totally get it. And I actually understand the question. And I would say the way we're coming out of it, which again, like I said, I'm not telling people, hey, this is a great business model. I'm saying we're, as crazy as this is, we hope people enjoy the Tomorrow's End stuff. We really do. We put a lot of work into it. We're putting a lot of, money into it to try to reach people. The issue is not to get people to make, just to make Tomorrow's End fans. It's about getting people into the word and hopefully into a relationship with Christ and walking with Christ and following Christ. So at the end of the day, it's not about if really people think there's value or more value in, whether it's free, whether they pay for it, whatever. Because at the end of the day, Again, if this all disappears in, I don't know, 10 years and there's no more product at Tomorrow's End at all, but there was 50 people, 100 people, whatever, that their lives were changed, they got into scripture. That's the point of the project. And again, it's not the, it's not the business model, most people, want to hear, because they're like, wait a second, you don't care if you go to business, you don't care if you're bankruptcy, whatever. The goal is to not make money or to even keep the brand going. The goal is to use the brand to get people into the word and into a relationship with Christ, and to figure out what that actually means. Because you can turn on the TV on any Sunday in most parts of the country, and you can hear people talking about the Bible. You can hear people talking about even Christ, but a lot of times it's not really the biblical Christ, and it's trying to show people who the biblical Yeshua was. And again, the importance of your walk with him. So that's what the project's for. So again, at the end of the day, if the board game never makes any money, the comics never make any money, you can't threaten somebody that's poor with poverty, and you can't threaten, I guess, art project Tomorrow's End with, hey, you're not going to sell any stuff, you're not going to be around. We'll be around for as long as we need to try to, reach the people that we're trying to reach. So I hope that answers that.
No, I think it's interesting because I find this fascinating on what you give for free, what you don't give for free.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that I won't give out for free
Mm-hmm.
at this point in my life. And then, I just understand the value of what I know, what I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that I'm more than happy to give out for free. For the most part, I'm happy to give most interviews out for free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but also there's people who have not been reciprocal to me. And I'm like, you've kind of been not nice to me, and you've been on my show 5 times and you've never done me a solid.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not in the free mode anymore.
No, I get that. And just so we're clear, all the content, like the comics, the board game, anything that's got a message is going to be free. If people want, we're going to have some, like t-shirts, wristbands, anything that's physical, that's the stuff we can't just give away. Like, we can't give you a physical copy for free. Again, unless people, are digitizing themselves or jumping in the matrix. I can't give you a digitized t-shirt, but I can give you, again, the PDFs of the comics, of the games, of even the video game, all that. So
I think that's also interesting too, because a PDF, it's not valueless, but it's also not the same as a physical copy. It doesn't cost you anything beyond you producing that product that you were producing anyway on a physical level. So, you giving me and sending me your digital catalog of the 4 or 5 comics you've done isn't costing you any money.
No, not at all.
Or it's not costing you any money, to the sense that if you were going to charge me $2 for that, it's costing you a $10 sale, but it's not costing you printing
of
that item. Which so you're not losing money by sending me physical copies, but you're not making a sale. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, I know it doesn't. Hopefully it's gaining some, goodwill and trust, if that makes sense. Because that's another thing. I don't know if, again, I know, you've said before, you started looking into the stock market to see about, maybe investing in some Christian companies or whatever the case may be. A lot of Christian, I guess, entertainment and just organizations have a stigma for always asking for money. So that's another reason why we're so much
about
giving.
Called the government.
yeah, but they're always wanting things. And again, some organizations use the money for ministry, awesome, but sometimes you see that people are not using the money for what they say they did. People tithe, people send money to people on TV, whatever, and it's got such a stigma. To combat that is why we're trying to give all of our art and all of our products for free, is to show people that is not true Christianity. That's people trying to make money on the name of God. That's
I'm going to ask you something.
Go for it.
And hopefully you're not going to get offended. Have you seen Honk for Jesus?
Are you talking about just like
the movie?
Oh no, I have not seen. No.
Oh my God! So I thought parts of it were hilarious, but I thought, so basically what the movie's premise is, that it's in the South and a mega church had a scandal with their pastor. I don't know exactly, and I don't want to misstate anything, but obviously it's a husband and wife. The pastor had an affair with somebody in the church of the same sex. And then the mega church starts falling apart and they're trying to rebuild it. But another church that was members of their church is building up a mega church, and you get all this crazy stuff going on. You get all this saying, God gave me a Bentley because he wanted me to give me a Bentley, and you get all like the mega church and like the television, and I have a jet because God gave me a jet, and all that, and it's a satire on it, but it also alludes to a bunch of craziness at these mega churches. And it raises questions about Christianity, but it also talks about the faith. It talks about a lot of different things and what people believe, and maybe them giving money to this church is not so much for the church or for that pastor or that deacon or whatever it is, but it's for themselves. And it's so fascinating because that movie did not do well. There were parts that were really funny in it, but there are also parts that were just like brutally honest. And I actually think it's not a Christian movie, but it definitely shows the flaws in these mega churches and how it's Christian capitalism and it's Christian corrupt capitalism. And it's so fascinating. And then I did a bunch of other like documentaries and stuff on it, and it's bewildering because there's no Christ in that movie, for lack of a better word.
No, I get that, and like that's one thing like that the Tomorrow's End stuff. That's why when we was talking about cookie cutter or fluffy cat videos earlier, why it's not. Again, it doesn't always make you feel good. It always makes you think, hopefully. And we're actually 100% against all that. Any type of corruption, any type of using, if you look at the 10 Commandments, we're not supposed to take the name of the Father in vain. Unfortunately, most people don't even know the name of the Father, that, his name's not God or Lord. He's got a name. Whether you argue it's Yahweh, Yahuwah, Jehovah, whatever you argue the name is, the Father has a name. And the point is, we're trying to, I guess, take away the stigma from all, like you said, that stuff, but you don't take away the stigma by covering up. I've seen so many people in, I guess, Christian media and stuff. They kind of try to downplay that stuff. Hey, we don't need to report this because that's going to put a bad taste in people's mouth. The way that you overcome a stigma is admitting there's flaws, there's problems with people that are saying they're doing certain things, and then you show a better way. Like, again, if I'm trying to, if me and you were talking, I don't know, and I don't know, you got diabetes or something, and I'm trying to show you a better way, I'm not going to be eating an ice cream sandwich in front of you. That's not me showing a better way. It's me telling you one thing while doing another. And I think that people, if you're really trying to showcase Christ and stuff, you have to acknowledge the fallacies in a lot of organizations, of a lot of businesses, and explain, like you just said, there's no Christ in that, like you said about that movie, and to show people a better way. But you don't do that by becoming another multimedia conglomerate doing the same exact thing. Again, it doesn't make sense. So you have to show a better way. And again, that's why we're not in it for the money or for, again, it'll Tomorrow's End will do what it needs to do, and it'll run its course. Hopefully it'll be around for a long time, and we'll keep on getting to create content, and people will dig it. People will check it out. People will think. But at the end of the day, it's truly about, that it points to the message of Christ and gets people into the word of God. And that's really, in a nutshell, the best way I could put it.
Fair enough. Again. I am not a Christianity expert. I know a little bit about religion. I found religion to be fascinating. I thought you would appreciate the whole thing about Honk for Jesus because I thought it was hilarious. I thought the movie was brilliant. I think parts of it were very, very dark. And I don't think people fully caught on either to how dark it was, of what was really going on, and not acknowledgement of the issues, not being yourself, also the rebuilding, also faith in a community. I also took it a little bit different, where I think this other couple's going to eventually have a scandal too. And from my understanding is that this is not uncommon in these mega churches. There's always a scandal.
And that's why, again, if people were just obeying, scripture, it says to be above reproach. That means do better. Like I said, I don't tell you not to, to watch your diabetes while I'm eating an ice cream sandwich and a donut in front of you. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't do that. And sometimes too many in the Christian community try to cover that or downplay that stuff. You've got to acknowledge it. And you only can fix an issue if you admit, hey, there's an issue with this. Let's fix it. Let's get in front of it and let's do better. And, I don't know if you're a Star Trek fan or anything, but are you a Star Trek fan at all?
Yeah, I know Star Trek.
Okay, cool. Well, one of the big things with the Next Generation, the whole concept of that show is to be better, to do better, and that's kind of like the Federation in like thousands of years in the future. They're better. Money doesn't have the same weight it does, and all these different things. So to use a pop culture reference, Christianity is about trying to do better. And that means that the people who are portraying it, whether you're in ministry, whether you're just somebody that says, hey, I'm a Christian, you should be doing better. And again, becoming part of the problem doesn't help anybody. But no, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that's one big thing that we combat. I always tell people, sometimes we get flack from Christian groups because they say, hey, you're kind of talking too much about the problems with, certain organizations. And then we get problems from sometimes atheist groups. Hey, you're talking too much about Christianity. So I always tell people, being right in that the sweet spot in the middle where everybody's kind of, I guess, coming at you. That's kind of where I guess, when you're doing something right, hopefully.
Oh man, every time I get attacked, I do better in the polls.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Somebody said to me, "You haven't made it until you get a hater," and I have a few. And what I figured out, and it took me a while, is that the people who hate me, they hate me because I'm doing something and I do it well. And I don't do it well every single time, but consistently, if a bunch of people hate you, chances are they're not hating you for no reason. They might be hating you because you're doing something and you're kind of doing a good job at it.
Mm-hmm.
And they just haven't figured out how to do it, or they never got a break. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in life, what happens is that you just get lucky too. You get lucky. You're in the right place at the right time. I don't know. Maybe you view it as an act of God, or God showing you the path. I think just sometimes, what it is, just circumstances line up where the person right behind you just so happens to be a movie producer, and you strike up a conversation and you mention their favorite movie, and then all of a sudden you two become friends. And then a year later, you show him your script and he's like, yeah, man, let me bring this to some people I know. And because I'm sure that's happened in Hollywood. I'm sure of it. But again, you can call it an act of God, you can call it God's path, God's showing.
And I would, and I would just pretty much say that, everything, whatever, the Father wants to happen, and his will be done at the end, whether me and you do it or not. If anybody, is obedient, disobedient, God's will be done. But, I guess our jobs, if people's Christian and identify and, trust Christ, our job is to do the best we can while we're here, be obedient as we can. But in the end, the Father's will be done. And yeah, that's how I view it. But again, that's,
I view it very differently, but I take a more atheist approach. I say, look, sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time, and you made a bunch of good decisions that put you there. And sometimes just people are just being nice, and they're just doing you a favor, and they're saying, look, it is, because there's plenty of people that I've asked that I've had no right to be interviewing, and like, yeah, I love doing interviews. Sure, I didn't get into being a voice actor to be a dick. I got into this because I want to connect to my fans, and I want to appreciate them. And I think sometimes, people are just saying, look, I'm successful. And I've had plenty of people who are beyond successful, and they're like, it is my duty as a successful person to foster the next generation. And I don't know what you call that, but it's selflessness, I guess.
And I do appreciate you again with your background and with your, your belief system, that you would even allow me to come on and explain this and talk about this project. And that is awesome of you. And I truly do appreciate that. And I think, that
don't
is
worry,
just,
guys. Don't worry, guys. After hours, we're both going to sin and do horrible things. Sorry, you walked into it.
Yeah. But I do appreciate you seriously letting me come on and do this. But yeah, the one thing is, I think that people have to understand is, if you're wanting people to believe in what you're selling, you got to live it. And at the end of the day, hopefully people, will view these comics, listen to the music, listen to these interviews, and hopefully can see something bigger than themselves, something bigger than me. My point today was not to make you a Tomorrow's End fan or a fan of me. It was to literally just hopefully, get people to think and get people to get back to, to the Word of God, That's at the bare bones. That's really I guess that's the fullness of the elevator pitch, so to speak.
Well, my point for all these interviews is to be entertaining, be informative. Obviously, I have sponsors, and again, I am an entertainment show that talks about whatever we're going to talk about, and I don't shy away from topics.
Yeah.
And I have no problem talking about anything and everything. And I have on this show. And I talk to everybody. And
Thank you for that, by the way.
I talk to people that I'm sure you disagree with, and I'm sure there's interviews that you're going to disagree with that I've done. But the difference is that I do them, but if you watch those interviews that you might disagree with, you can't. The one thing you can't say is that they weren't well thought out. You cannot say that those interviews were not well thought out. When I'm interviewing a lot of people, I really, really try to get to the heart and ask good questions and be entertaining and have a good show. And I don't think I've done a bad job. And that's
I don't think you have. I think your questions today were great. They, a lot of points. Sometimes you bring up stuff that more people should probably ask, to be honest. Nobody should ever believe what we're doing or, just take it at face value. They should, ask the tough questions, ask the things that make you feel uncomfortable, ask the things, because here's the cool thing. If you're always telling the truth, you don't have to worry about the answer, if that makes sense.
That is true. That is true. Also, I'm a strong believer that ideas, when challenged, either flop or they get stronger. So people challenge my ideas as an investor, and I'm like, okay, but you got to realize. I'll give a good example. I invested in Netflix about a year ago, and Netflix, I bought it at 227, went down to 197. A lot of people on this show made fun of me for it. And I'm like, I don't think you understand the fundamentals of that company. I went through it. Netflix is sitting, I think, around like 560, 580, maybe even 600 now. And the point I was trying to make is saying you guys missed what Netflix is. They are a gigantic library of content that is on your iPad. like how does this idea lose? And people are like, oh, Netflix is this and that, this is changing and that there's other streamers. I'm like, you got to realize that if you're buying Disney Plus, you're probably buying Netflix too. Disney and Netflix don't compete with each other. Peacock doesn't compete with Netflix. Paramount might compete with Netflix. HBO Max might compete with Netflix, but not Disney Plus. But and my idea, A, was right, and B, I defended my idea, and that's how I feel. So, and that's how I view it. But enough about that. I don't want to give people investment advice. You can all pay for that. You can all pay for that. And I will give you my trades. I will give you my stock portfolio. And I will give you my public stock portfolio too, which is that app, because I got my Shrek IPOs, guys, and that's a very cool IPO. They basically sold the 25% of the music royalty rights to Shrek in a stock format. So every time a song is played from Shrek, I get a piece of that. So welcome to Dura. Welcome to Dura, everybody. That's all I could say. And it was a very lucrative IPO, to put it nicely. And they pay a dividend. It's fantastic. I made a good amount of money on that too, which is fantastic. I definitely felt welcome by Lord Farquaad. I felt welcome to his kingdom. I can tell you that. But I digress. I do want to give you a chance to self-promote yourself. So where can people find you, bother you, disturb you, hit you up? I guess pray with you. I mean,
tomorrowsend.com. There's a contact button. You can follow all of our stuff there. Again, if you want to hear about the project, it'll have the different things on tomorrowsend.com. You can always follow us on Facebook. We have a friends page if people want to actually friend us, and if you have any prayer requests or anything like that. We also have just a page. Some people don't want to be your friend, but they want to follow what you're doing. So you can do both. You can do one, whichever. If you're going to be, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and you're going to Chattanooga 2024 this weekend, we will be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Chattanooga Convention Center. And come by our table, talk to us, get some free stuff, because we will be giving out free stuff. We will be showcasing new projects, a little bit of video stuff, like some animation from the cartoon, some stuff from the video game. And there's also on tomorrowsend.com and I can't stress this enough. There's a new thing that says Sabbath Assembly. We also run a virtual church on Saturdays. Again, I know you said you grew up Jewish and stuff, so I'm sure you know what the Sabbath is. Most Christians, unfortunately, that word, they don't really understand it, but we do something with that, and we do a virtual church. If anybody ever wants to join, they can always just, the Zoom link is on the Sabbath Assembly Church Facebook page. They can do that every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They can talk if they want. They can just sit there and listen, and we can study and pray together and read the Word of God. Again, like I said at the beginning, that's the point of the Tomorrow's End project, which I totally get from a financial standpoint. Hey, what is this nutcase? This makes no financial sense. It doesn't make financial sense. It makes, I guess, spiritual sense, if that makes sense. It's just all about faith and trying to use anything we can to portray that message and to show people, hopefully, the truth of scripture and stuff. So I think that's pretty much where people can find us. And if you do follow us, we will be touring either later this year or in 2025. We will be the live performance aspect of the music. So we may be coming to a town near you. So you can always check that out also. That'll all be on the website and the Facebooks. And that's Tomorrow's End with a Z. And because sometimes people can't find it, it's because it's Tomorrow's with a Z.
And then I'm just going to keep saying it, that if you like what you heard or you're curious, you should go check them out. And obviously, if you want to support people and you want to see more of the content that they make, whether it's obviously Tomorrow's End or somebody else, you actually have to support them, buy their shirts, listen to their product, obviously follow them on social media, share out their content, all that stuff. Nothing is too little, I think is a good way to put it. And that's something that I encourage for everybody. And then as far as I'm concerned, obviously I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter. I am Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on TikTok, Pop Anime Comics on YouTube. Pretty much anything that's Pop Anime Comics is mine. I also have an eBay store called Pop Anime Comics Collectibles, and this is what that looks like right there. So obviously it's that URL link down below. And I sell comics and collectibles, so come shop with us on eBay. And that is my cute little elf, and she is coming back, and she's adorable. And she's a little cute little elf. But she only has 4 fingers on. She has 3 fingers on one and 4 on the other. It's great. It's great. I love her. She's absolutely wonderful. So adorable. But no, I do sell a lot of really cool books. And that's something that's very cool. And there is something very cool in my store right now, but very few people can see it. I didn't see anything. Did you see anything?
I couldn't see it.
I know it's invisible. It's a tough card for people to understand, because I put it in the mail and then they're like, "Where is it? I can't see it." And they're like, "You didn't send it to me," but I'm like, "I did send it to you." And they're like, "Something's heavy in here," and so I have 8 of those in my store right now, and they are sold out. So it is a very cool card. And I've been running a promo for everybody that if you say, "Hey, I saw you on the interview and you want that card," right now it's selling for $38. I will sell to anybody for $32 if they make me an offer and say, "Hey, I saw you on Conversations in Pop Culture. You're going to get a $6 discount." So if anybody wants that card for this interview, go to my website. It's in there. You should be able to pick it up, and it's a beautiful card. So that's everything I have, as well as if you are a Chiefs fan, I have those as well. So very cool, and I'm feeling very swift in that transition. So that's everything that I got, and I'm going to give you the final word.
Yeah. Again, if you wise advice, if you enjoyed tonight, tell a friend and, share the word of, what Tomorrow's End is. If you hated it, tell an enemy. But at the end of the day, I just want to leave everybody with a question. Are you ready for Tomorrow's End?
I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is a wrap.